Hello and welcome to Three OG Coaches Talking Shop. I'm Bridget Boudreau, and with me are Leanne Raymond
Hi.
and Sass Petherick.
Hey everyone.
Hey, so we're here for our second episode, and thank you all so much for your warm reception of the first
Yeah.
episode and all of your comments and emails. And clearly we've struck a note, and we're really, really grateful for you listening. And so unbeknownst to us, right as this episode was coming out, there was an article that came out from the New York Times. So we wanted to build a little bit on what we were talking about last time. We're not always going to be talking about the dark side of life coaching, but since there is a bit there to unpack, we felt like another episode was necessary. So to
Totally.
recap, if you all have not seen this New York Times article, it's called "They Spent Their Life Savings on Life Coaching," and the gist, I'll give a high level gist, and then I think it would be great if you two chimed in with what resonated with you as well. But it was really about, they followed a couple or interviewed a couple of coaches, folks who trained as coaches, who basically got involved with the pyramid scheme of life coaching. And so the first woman, and I thought it was very interesting that the first woman would not even name the coaching school that she went through out of fear of
Yeah.
retaliation and reprisal. So that was the first thing that jumped out at me. But just to kind of give you all a picture of what this article was about, I did like that they said that while many coaches operate with integrity, thank you, author of the article, that there's a lot of problematic behavior as well. And so this woman, I mean, both of these people invested thousands of dollars in coaching, and they invested at the basic level, and then it was like, well, no, of course you have to invest more money to get to the big six-figure earning that you're wanting to get to, and then it just becomes this cycle of paying to supposedly move your business along until the funds are exhausted and the business doesn't materialize. So that's the gist of it. And yeah, so let's get right into it. Who wants to jump in with what leaped out at you about this?
On one level, I'm so glad that this is coming to light. Like, I think this is a really great article because it really respects the customers, the clients in this case. We've got a intelligent registered nurse who wanted, and who among us doesn't, wanted to improve her life and felt like she was getting, a really good program to help her do that. And then it turns out, actually, I'm just going to give you the little sliver of it, and then you have to pay for more. So on one level, I'm thinking this woman, A, is so courageous to come out and say, this was an awful experience for me, and it wasn't what I paid for. That's fantastic. My heart always sinks a little bit as well when I see stuff like this, because I think for most of us that operate within a kind of ethical framework and with some integrity, it's hard enough to kind of let our family and friends and circles know, oh, this is the work we're doing. And then kind of going, oh, isn't that like selling used cars, basically? There is something about this that, yeah, I just sort of think, oh man, you're letting the side down, is how I kind of respond to it. And how
Mm-hmm.
disappointing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. How about you, Leanne?
Well, I have a couple. Yeah, I agree. I'm happy for this reckoning. As I say, like, bring on the life coach reckoning, because I really want, I think this, as I've said before, I think this profession has so much to offer and has so much potential. And I think this article is a really good example of, and I think, I'm the oldest of the three of us, so maybe I'm the OGest, I don't know. But of the, in the OG coaching, I think she's talking about a couple things in that article. She's talking about life coaching, yes, but it's when life coaching kind of came together with online marketing, you might call it, or that
Yeah.
like make crazy amount of money selling courses online or selling whatever it is online. It's not necessarily life coaching, it's a myriad of things with this like get rich quick schemes. And life coaching, so it's kind of like the Venn diagram where life coaching met up with that quick get rich quick, or easy money kind of scheming, that things really, and unfortunately it's gone heavily, it feels like it's heavily weighted in that space now, right? That coaching has been so almost it's thought of in the same breath as that kind of stuff. And so that's where you get the car salesman energy from, right, Sass?
Yeah.
It's more from that get rich marketing sort of sliminess versus the quality of coaching per se. It's how coaching is packaged right now.
Yeah.
Which is a lot, and a lot of it is packaged with this very sleazy, multi-level marketing style of energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think that the result of that, as with any pyramid scheme, it's the person at the top that's getting the money.
100%.
So you've
100%.
often got this weird paradox I see where you've got a coach who is making 6-7 figures, like that's the new thing right now, multiple 7-figure coach. And
It
the
was
reason
6 back in our day.
it used to be, yeah.
Back
Yeah.
in our day,
Right.
we made 6 figures and we
Right.
liked
Well,
it.
I can remember it was replace your day job income. That was it. It was like,
Yeah.
you can do that. And then it became 6 figures was the magic thing. Now it's like multiple 7. So who knows
Yeah.
where this will end, right? But
Right.
but you have this person who is then touting how to replicate their business model. But the only reason that they're rich is because everyone is trying to
Yes.
is paying them to become them, but there's only one of them. Does that kind of
Yes.
make sense? Yeah.
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 Absolutely. I mean, it hasn't escaped anyone's notice, I think, that so say someone like Marie Forleo, although she's not a coach, but she's kind of in the online coaching space. A lot of coaches will be familiar with her, I'm guessing. A lot of people listening to this, I'm guessing. And I thought, I don't pay that close attention to her, but a while back, it was like she was starting something new. What was it? Like copywriting. That's what it was. She started some new copywriting course. And I thought to myself, yeah, like eventually there were so many people that went through her program that turned into mini Marie Forleos that all of a sudden there was like, now she wasn't the only person at the top of a pyramid. She was like, there were pyramids all the way down, so to speak,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and at the top of her pyramid is a chap called Jeff Walker, who some of you may
Yes.
be familiar with. And he has this whole business model, which is all about teaching people how to launch.
Yeah.
Right. And so you launch a course or a program or a coaching offer for those of us in the coaching industry. And I have bought Jeff Walker's course. I did not buy B-School.
Seriously?
But yeah, back
This
in the
is
day when I
interesting.
was, oh, let's confessional time, right? And I found it quite fascinating because he has quite the launch formula is quite complicated, I thought.
Oh, is it?
But his whole kind of premise is you give a lot away for free up front, so you get people used to saying yes to you.
Oh.
And then you develop a relationship with them where you're the expert. I'm giving a very brief overview. So you give them something that's helpful, free downloadable of some sort. They say yes to you. Then it's like, come watch my video series and I'll teach you even more. Say yes to you. But if you actually want the how to do it, so a lot of the free stuff is the what and the why, and the paid for stuff is the how. So it's kind of like, well, how do I do this? Oh, that's the bit you pay for.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, Bridget, I haven't given you space
No,
to
go
say
ahead.
anything yet,
Go
because
ahead.
I want to rush in here because we're all Martha Beck coaches. And one thing I know, and this reminds me of Sass, is so I was I had been looking at Martha Beck's coaching, she wrote the is it Finding Your Own North Star, which I still think is
Yeah.
a fantastic beginner. If you want to take a look at coaching, go buy that book. It's a
Yeah.
really great book. And she would host these in-person coach trainings down in Arizona. And for a
Mhm.
number of years, after reading that book, I hemmed and hawed and thought about that. And then one year, the first year she offered this training online, I thought, oh, well, I don't have to go to Arizona. I can do this with Martha. Well, what I didn't know was that was Brooke Castillo coming alongside Martha with Jeff Walker's launch formula. And that's where I'm
Yes.
talking about those worlds
Yeah.
colliding, right? Martha was
Yeah.
doing this life coaching thing, and she was over here in this circle, and Brooke was reading all about Jeff Walker's approach, and those two things, came
Yeah.
together in that Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I
that's
think
what's, yeah,
it's so good to know that provenance, right? Because
yes,
anyone who is buying coaching services from a coach is likely to be subject to the Jeff Walker pyramid, right? And
right.
he's quite open about, naming his teachers as well. What I find interesting though is when you get under the skin of the launch formula, he's pretty straightforward about, look, we want to play to pain points. We want to show people the gap between where they are and where they want to be. You want to position yourself as the expert, even if you don't feel it, all of that kind of stuff. And he does it in this kind of down home hoaxy way, which is, I mean, he's a really charming guy in the same way that a lot of these folks, you think, they're a nice person, like they would be kind of cool. But I think it really is important to look at, and then how does that feel in your body to be doing that?
Well, and
And
Yeah.
here's
go
where
ahead,
I'd
go
like,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. Here's where I'd like to come in and maybe draw a bit of a distinction, because I'm a marketer from way back. Like
Yeah.
that's the
Mm,
background that I came from. I've marketed in this space. I worked for Sounds True, where we were deep into the Jeff Walker model, which I just, personally, it is very complicated. And I'm like, could this just be easier?
Right.
But here's the thing is what I want to say as a marketer and somebody who's actually passionate about and enjoys marketing is that marketing is not bad. And I think sometimes
Yeah.
this is the takeaway that good coaches or ethical coaches, they're like, well, now I can't talk about anybody's pain,
Mhm.
or I can't talk about, I can't differentiate between talking about what I do versus delivering what I do or whatever. And to me, that's not what it's about at all. And there are as many ways to market your business as there are, you know, more hues in the rainbow, right? I mean, there's just infinite ways. But the way that I like to think about those structures is they're all frameworks. And so what you can do is you can fill those frameworks ethically, or you can use them manipulatively to shake people upside down and empty them of their money. And what that can look like even pain points, like you can really twist the knife on people. I think some of these, the pyramid organizations that we're talking about really do that. They really play into the FOMO. They really play, there's manipulative language. There's a lot happening there. And I think there's another way where you're creating, I think of it more as like meeting people where they are now and creating resonance with them. So I'm looking not to twist the knife in somebody's pain, but like, can I connect with where they are now and what they're experiencing in their life in this very specific way that makes them feel seen and makes them feel recognized. And then, from there, kind of walking them through the process of coming to understand how I can help them, how what I do is different from other things. It's like, what are the things that people need to understand in order to make a decision on whether or not they want to work with me? I do that online a lot, and
Mm.
I do that through a lot of these traditional methods. And I think, you know, you can also do it through word of mouth. You can do it through referrals. You can do it through videos. You can do it through being out in your community. And I think those are the pieces that are, those are the nuances and the pieces that are sometimes lost. And so I think it's important as I think one of the things we want to do here is help people become discerning consumers. And so we want to
Yes.
reveal the game. We
Yeah.
want to show you what's a game for some people, let's say more generously, the underlying patterns that may be at play. So
Mhm.
you can see, like, oh, there's Bridget. She's trying to walk me through what this offer is like, how it's going to help me, what I might feel like now, what I'm going to feel like after. Oh, and here's somebody else doing the same thing, but back to Sass's point, this feels really, hopefully
Yeah.
what I'm doing feels good in your body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, here's somebody else where that doesn't feel good in my body, or I'm feeling an incredible amount of pressure, or my
Mhm.
FOMO is cranked up to 13, or somebody is not letting me get off the phone and guilting me about wanting to talk to a friend, a spouse, a parent,
Mhm.
whoever, about spending this money. That's when we're
Mhm.
in the red zone.
Yeah. No, I'm
You
so
know, as
glad.
sorry, I was,
Uh,
I was just going to say, as you're talking, Bridget, I'm thinking it's the difference between a transaction, right, which is I just want to sell my product versus a relationship,
Yes.
right? Like I can really see that distinction quite clearly just listening to the way you're sharing this. And folks in the transaction game are in the volume game. They're not really
Yes.
that interested in you as an individual or in clients as individuals. They're more about, how many sales am I making? Whereas if you're in the relationship game, then you care about every single person. You're likely to work with less people and have a richer and more in-depth relationship with each person.
Absolutely.
And that has tons of ramifications and consequences for
mhm.
both.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Well,
interrupted
that's
you,
no,
Leanne.
I love you're always like the
Mhm.
synthesizer. I love that.
Well, yeah, and I would even add to what Sass said, and I'm really glad you pointed that out, Bridget, because we're not saying don't market, or
Mm,
what we're trying to do is just like, just highlight some things and show behind the scenes. But the other thing I would say is like, is there a sense of, when I'm as a coach, right from the very beginning, even in that place where we're deciding together with a client, are we going to work together? So yes, transactional versus relationship, 100%. And then the other piece for me is I want to be fostering that sense of agency right from the very beginning. So
Yes.
is it I'm trying to manipulate, is the person feeling manipulated, or is the person feeling like they have their agency? So like, as I think both of you probably know, like, I think contrast is good. I'm always like, go look at a few other, if you're considering a coach training program, make sure you're looking at a few,
mm,
seeing how each one lands for you. If you're considering getting coaching, same thing. Talk to a few different coaches. Contrast is good. And I never, ever, ever allow someone to decide on their very first chat with me if they want to work with me.
yeah,
I'm like, you have to go and sit with this now and think about our conversation and see if, if you still feel like you want to work with me in a bit,
yeah,
and take your time, no rush.
yeah,
So are you feeling rushed? Are you feeling manipulated? Are you feeling any of those things? Or are you actually being given right from the beginning a sense of agency?
yeah,
Well, and I want to share because Leanne, I've worked with you, and when I came to you, it was like the best, funniest coaching consult call ever, because I knew I was looking for something, and while I couldn't totally articulate it, I had a strong feeling that you had what I was looking for. So here, our conversation went like, so Leanne, I'm looking for somebody to help me build my business. And you're like, well, I'm not really a business coach. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm looking for like that deeper work part. And you're like, yeah, I do that part for sure, definitely. And then there was like so we just sort of were navigating together, but you were very clearly saying, this is what I do and this is what I don't do. And I would be like, oh yeah. But more concerned, I think, about a potential for mismatch, to the point where I'm like, look, babe, I'm willing to roll the dice here because I got a strong feeling about this. And I was right. But then at the very end, I was ready to go. And, I was experienced after that. And you said, look, just give yourself a couple days, I'll be here, come back and get started. And I just really, really respected that. And it took, and what that did is that's mentorship that took me even deeper. Like I did that with folks as well, but it kind of took me deeper into like just really giving people all the space to and all the permission to make the decision. And because I agree, I think that agency is so important.
And I'd have to say, yes, I do too. I think it's like, that's, where I want to start the coaching is like, you have agency here and you're not coming to me for some magic bullet. And the other thing that's really important to me is that match, because I want people to have a good experience of coaching. And that might not be with me for that particular person. So I don't want to take someone on that's not a good fit for me. And then they go away thinking coaching isn't that great. Like I said before, I love this profession and I want this profession to be valued and be respected. And that's not going to happen if we just I want people to go off and find the coach that's going to be the best experience for them. And sometimes that's not with me.
Yeah.
So that's the other
exactly.
piece of it too. And I would love it if people felt the same way about like their coach trainings. Whereas coach trainings, you often get the feeling they're just like Sass said, they're going for volume, not fit.
Yeah.
And I
And
think that that's the thing for me that I find a bit baffling is why, I mean, it's not baffling. It's all about sales, right? But why would you want to transact with anyone who is in a vulnerable state of feeling like they're kind of that this is the only option? Like that to me just feels like a terrible start to any relationship. Like you're my only hope. That just puts so much pressure on both of you. And I think it creates a dynamic within the coaching sessions themselves that means nothing good can kind of come of that, right? Because the client is often in a state of they're really dysregulated. They'll just make this stop, whatever is going on, or why can't I have this because coaching has promised me this insane result. And you as the practitioner feel under pressure to provide that. So you kind of go into your fearful place of, am I good enough? Can I do this? Oh, it's all on me. And so when I think the magic of a coaching relationship, when it is matched and there is agency, is it's both of our kind of healthy adult selves in service of where you're going, your future, who you're becoming. And that I just don't think there's any room for that when it starts off in a place of the client is a bit panicked and wants desperately to be out of a situation that they're in, or wants something desperately. And then you say, yeah, I can provide that solution. Nothing good can come of that.
I agree. I think that's a trap. And I've seen good coaches of conscience do this. And again, I think it's something that they learned where they'll talk about getting results for their clients. And to me, we help our clients get results.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. One, for the whole agency question that we're talking about here, too, lets me off the hook. The worst coaching I have ever done in my life is always when I feel like I am responsible for my clients' outcomes. Terrible. terrible place to coach from, terrible coaching.
Mhm.
And our, I feel our job as coaches is to believe in their agency and elicit their agency from them, being a sounding board, being a trusted guide. Maybe we have some ideas, especially, if, like if I'm coaching another coach on business, I have some perspective and insight that I can provide.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to do is find what harmonizes with them and what their way is, rather than install my way and my system. And that's another thing about being a smaller scale coach, is that, and I think you can do this stuff at scale too. It's not about big or small necessarily, but it's just about, are you are you just in a system where somebody is scaled up system, kind of a coaching industrial complex, where
Yes. I
somebody,
love it.
where it's just, this is the way and this is the system. There's no room for dissent, and there's kind of no room for your way. And
Mhm.
I
There's
think
a
if you're gonna,
formula.
yeah, there's a formula that you
Yeah.
have to follow. There's a culture
Yeah.
that in some of these situations, there's a culture that you have to follow.
Right.
And I think that's where it gets really starts to go off the rails, because these people also aren't, the people in these systems aren't finding their own way. They're mirroring Marie Forleo, Brooke
Yeah.
Castillo, whoever it is, their way.
Yeah.
And that's where people get derailed.
Yeah. So, oh, this is so juicy, and I feel like we could go so many ways. But there's a part of me that also, I was thinking about that article, thinking about all of this that we're talking about, and that article, and I was thinking how I had an opinion, about how much a person should pay for coach training.
Yes.
And I was mulling over, like, well, so what do you like? I was like, well, that's too much. And then I thought, well, what is your limit, or what? And then I realized I don't think it's about the specific cost, although that is 100% a part of it. But like this article, right? This woman takes out her life savings
Yeah.
or something like that. Like the title of the article is like, I spent my life savings on life coach training and I've got nothing to show for it, is sort of the gist of it, right? And that's another place of, I think, about where the agency and all of this stuff we're talking about, the relationship piece and the marketing and the culture and everything comes in, is I think it's not about the cost, it's about the financial. Does this cause you financial anxiety? Is my
Yes.
question.
Yeah.
And if the culture is such that you're being told to ignore any financial anxiety you might feel about the cost of any program or any coaching or whatever it is, that's a huge red flag to me.
Mm.
Oh yeah. It's just your thoughts. Come
Yes.
on.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Right?
Do you
just your
want, how
thoughts, and
much do you want it?
circumstances are neutral. How much do you
Yes.
want it?
Yeah.
So
Run
maybe, maybe
away.
for one person, 14,000 is nothing and it causes them no
Mm.
financial anxiety. But for another person, it's their life savings and it causes
Yeah.
them huge financial anxiety. So that
Yeah.
to me is the question, is,
Yeah.
and knowing yourself, because I know I'm terribly risk averse. So
Mm.
I have never, ever spent anything on any coach training or a website, any, design, nothing that has ever caused me any financial anxiety. That's my comfort level, like none.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know about you two, but that's a piece of it for me for sure, is for people to ask themselves, like, what is my tolerance for risk?
Yeah.
And honoring that. And is this thing that I'm attracted to right now trying to convince me that my risk tolerance, that is something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's so well said. And, that's another thing that I had to unwind in myself, because early days, I was taught that somehow I don't know who told me or exactly where I got the idea, but it was like, it's not my business. So that right there is like buzzword. It's not my business where people get the money.
Yeah.
And I would say that's true to a degree, but it is my business if I am manipulating people
Mm.
to pay money that they don't have. So it is not my
Mm.
business where the money comes from. And sometimes people prioritize their expenditures in ways that I wouldn't. And other people, I mean, when you start to get into money,
Mm.
like it's very individual. But if I'm not, at least, if somebody's saying like, oh, I'm going to pull the money out of now I would say, if somebody was like, well, I'm going to pull the money out of my 401k to do this, I would be like, let's check in. Is that something you really want to do? Like, what are your expectations? If they wanted to talk to me, I mean, it's not my job to decide,
No.
but I would encourage them to at least think about that and talk to somebody else about that. Ultimately, it is their decision, but that's a really important nuance, because
Mm.
there's, in these highly manipulative organizations, they're
Mhm.
not going to let you off the call until they have your credit card.
Yeah.
Mm.
The other quick piece that I wanted to say about that too is, I think another thing that you can watch out for, whether it be a coach training, a high level, high ticket coaching service, or really anything in the coaching world, is what is the return policy?
Mm.
What is the return policy? Because to me, that's another place where you can see a lot of red flags. It's like, well,
Mm.
Beyonce doesn't give refunds.
Exactly.
Well, can we just talk about that for a minute? Because,
Isn't that what
if
Susan Hyatt
Beyonce
says?
doesn't give a
Yeah.
concert, okay, if you go to Beyonce and you don't like it, but look at what Beyonce's doing. She's she's going to give you what you paid for. So like, that doesn't even apply.
That's a thing. That's a thing that
That's
people
a thing.
say.
It's a thing, but
Yeah.
That
but
just
As
it's
cracks
a,
me
really
up.
about
I've
like,
never heard that.
I am not standing behind my service. So to
Yeah.
me,
but I'm going to
really
make it your problem.
really draconian return policies are
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to stand behind my service. And I know I know a significant number of people are going to want their money back. And so I'm going to get in front of that and set a policy that you're not going to get your money back. And then I'm going to make you feel foolish for having questions, doubts, or wanting your money back.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like if you have the agency-led conversation at the start, I mean, it's very rare for me to refund a client. And it's usually
It's
because of
completely rare.
extenuating circumstances that are out of both of our control. And it's, and that's sent with love. It's not an issue.
Yeah.
But I think, it's a pretty big red flag when someone's getting out in front and saying, I am Beyonce of the coaching world. I do not give refunds.
That's
Yeah.
When
hilarious.
actually, that is not true either, because if Beyonce got laryngitis, you can bet your bottom dollar she'd be refunding tickets out of integrity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So,
And I think if people like that's a question I even ask on my, my initial conversation I have with a potential client is like, this is my fee. Is that going to cause you any financial anxiety? Because my belief is, if somebody, whether it's, coaching or coach training or whatever it is, they're not going to get that's not a good headspace to be in for the coaching or the coach training or anything. If you're worried about how you're paying for it, that's getting in the way of it being as powerful as it could be.
yeah. And let's put a wrapper on this, because I'm always thinking about the coach out there that's like, oh shit, am I charging too much money? Or now I'm worried about people's ability to pay. So let's put a wrapper on that, and then we can kind of land the plane this time, because it doesn't mean don't charge what you think you need to charge for your business. My individual coaching sessions are $300 an hour, but that's what makes the world go round in the world of Bridget Boudreau.
Yeah.
Now, what I can do and what I do is I have a course and a learning community that people can be a part of. I have all kinds of free content that people read. I do
Mhm.
stuff like this. I'm happy to chat with folks if they email me, you know.
Yeah.
I also will recommend, if it's not in the budget for somebody, like here's what is in the budget, or
Mhm.
sometimes I can do scholarships and I'm very clear about this is a situation where I can
Yeah.
do a scholarship. This is not a situation where I can do a
Mhm.
scholarship. So I just want for coaches and service providers out there that are listening, you know, there's lots of ways to address this. You don't have to just start dropping all of your prices, because there is a cost of doing business, and we do get to get paid what we feel we're worth and
Yeah.
what the market will bear for our services.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I said it's not about the price at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's, no, good wrap.
Yeah. Sass, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I know before we hit record, we were talking about an episode where we actually just say, "Hey, this is what we charge and this is how we make our money." Just because we all have very different business models. And I think that might be really helpful for folks listening in. So let's make that the next episode.
All right.
All right.
Episode 3.
Come
How
on
we,
Coming
back.
how
up.
we make the magic happen. All right, OGs, thank you so much for another great conversation, and we'll look forward to next time.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.